Hello, let's discuss on the functional aspects of ecosystem. In an ecosystem, the main source of energy is sunlight. Through the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the living organisms who are bearing chlorophyll synthesize their food and become the source of energy in an ecosystem. So the main functions performed by an ecosystem is the conversion of sunlight into chemical energy by the autotrophs, and these autotrophs further is being consumed by the heterotrophs, which are later on decomposed after its death by the decomposers. Hence, in an ecosystem, the flow of energy always starts from sunlight and then to the autotrophs and then to the heterotrophs and decomposers. So the flow of energy is following one direction only. Therefore, in an ecosystem, the flow of energy is always unidirectional. That means flowing in one direction only. Now we shall discuss on the four most important functional aspects of an ecosystem. The first function is the productivity, the second is the decomposition, the third is the energy flow, and the fourth is the nutrient cycling. Now let's first discuss on the productivity. What do you mean by productivity? Productivity refers to the rate of productions of an organic matter, that means energy, per unit area by an autotrophs. Here we are referring to how much energy is produced in one unit area by an autotrophs. So productivity is also called as the biological production. This productivity is further classified into two types. The first one is primary productivity and the second is secondary productivity. Now, when we say primary productivity, we are referring to the energy that is fixed or produced by the autotrophs, like plants. That means how much energy is produced by the autotrophs after conversions of the radiant energy, that is sunlight, into the chemical energy. Now the second is the secondary productivity. Secondary productivity refers to the energy that is being received by the consumers after consuming the autotrophs. So primary productivity is referring to the production at the producer's level, and the secondary productivity is referring to the production of energy, that means energy received by the consumers at the consumer level. Now let's discuss on the second functional aspects of an ecosystem, that is the decomposition. Decomposition is the process of breaking down of the complex organic compounds into the simpler usable form. Now major sites for decomposition is the upper layer of soil in case of terrestrial habitat, and in case of water body or aquatic habitats, it is the bottom layer. Now when plants or animals, when plants or animal die, their remains get decomposed, their remain gets deposited on the top layer of soil, and even some gets buried under the soil. So these are freshly deposited organic matters. That means the organic matters which are deposited on the top layer of soil, that is the freshly deposited matters, are referred to as the detritus or the litters. So when we say detritus or litter, we are referring to the freshly deposited organic matter on the topmost layer of soil. Now let's discuss on the process of decomposition. Decomposition process is completed in three phases. The first phase is the fragmentation, the second is the leaching, and the third is the catabolism. Now fragmentation of in the first step, that is in the fragmentation step, the detritus are broken down into smaller pieces or into smaller fragments by the detritivores such as the earthworms. And when we say detritivores, we are referring to those living organisms which feeds on the detritus. So this detritus converts detritivores converts the detritus into smaller particles. So in the first step, that is in the fragmentation step, the detritus are being converted into smaller fragments by the detritivores. And in the second step, that is in the second phase is the leaching phase. So In this phase, the soluble substance that is present in the fragmented pieces of the detritus gets leached to the upper surface of the soil due to the percolation of water. So this is the second step, that is leaching. Now the third and the last step for decomposition process is the catabolism. When we say catabolism, we are referring to breaking down of the complex components into the simpler usable form. Now, this catabolism refers to the breaking down of complex organic compound into its simpler and usable form. So, in this catabolism step, the decomposers such as fungi and bacteria act upon the fragmented detritus and then break down the complex organic compounds that is present in the detritus into the simpler usable form by releasing digestive enzymes on this detritus. So these are the three steps that are involved during decomposition. Now, during all these three phases of decompositions, two important processes again takes place. The first one is humidification and the second is the mineralizations. Now, what do you mean by humidification? Humidification is the process of formation of humus from the detritus by the process of decomposition. So, humus is a dark color that get mixed with the soil. So, these humus are the main reservoirs of the nutrients. So, these nutrients also help. These humidifications also help in maintaining soil moisture. That means retention of water capacity into the soil and also help in aerations. So this is all about humidification. Now the second is the mineralization. When we say mineralization, we are referring to the mixing of the organic or inorganic components into the soil. So during the decomposition process, the inorganic substances are released into the soil along with the simple and soluble organic substances. So this refers to the mineralizations. So minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, etc. that gets released during decompositions are absorbed by the plants for the synthesis of organic compounds. So these are the two important processes that occur side by side with the decomposition process.